One of the most important things I've ever learned after overcoming low testosterone, writing this award-winning thesis on male reproductive health, and then coaching several men to optimize their testosterone levels naturally, is that testosterone tests are not only unnecessary, but they can actually be dangerously misinforming. A picture speaks 1,000 words, and I was able to go from this to this without ever getting my testosterone levels tested because I was solely focused on the one thing that actually matters when it comes to determining and optimizing your testosterone status, which is the exact one thing that I prioritize with clients to great effect. In this video, I'm going to explain why testosterone tests are unnecessary and misleading, the only way to accurately determine your testosterone status, and the one thing that you should be focused on to optimize your testosterone levels naturally. Alright gentlemen, so my inspiration for making this video is that my mom is a physician assistant, and I was having a conversation with her the other day, and she was telling me how many of her male patients keep coming into the office asking to have their testosterone levels checked. But the problem is they're focused on the wrong thing, and here's why. So the first problem with testosterone tests is that there's a lot of different factors that affect your testosterone levels, and the tests only give you a reading at one specific moment in time. So if you get your testosterone tested at one moment in time, but the night before you had a terrible night's sleep, or you had an unhealthy breakfast that morning, or maybe you're testing your testosterone levels at a time of day when it's higher or lower than the average. For example, testosterone is highest in the morning and then it's lowest in the evening. This is called the dineural testosterone cycle. Then you're not going to get a reflection of your average testosterone levels over time because it's only at one moment in time. So that's the first problem with testosterone tests, is they don't give you a continuous testosterone measurement. The only way for an accurate long-term testosterone test would be to have something like a continuous testosterone monitor, like how diabetics have continuous glucose monitors, but those aren't available or practical. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that the testosterone test reference ranges were actually based on studies done in geriatric men. So that's going to be men older than 60 plus years old. So in this study, they actually showed that there is no currently agreed upon established healthy testosterone level for adult men. And there's also no agreed upon threshold for what's considered low testosterone. So these reference ranges, I think it ranges from 300 to 1,000, was first of all designed for older men, but second of all, it's pretty arbitrary and there is no agreed upon scientific consensus on what a healthy testosterone level is. And the third problem with testosterone tests is most of them are pretty ineffective. That same study showed that testosterone tests are on average at least 30% inaccurate. So the test could say your level is a certain level, when in reality, you're 30% higher or lower than that reading. So to summarize, testosterone tests only give you your reading at one moment in time, not your long-term average. The second problem is that the reference ranges are totally arbitrary and actually based on levels meant for older men. And the third problem is, what did I have written down, is that the testosterone tests are inaccurate. But that's not the only problem. Even if testosterone tests were completely accurate, they still wouldn't suffice to give you a good representation of what I call your testosterone status. And to understand why, you need to understand a few other concepts about testosterone that I'm going to explain in just a moment. But pay close attention, because understanding these concepts will help you clear up any misconceptions or confusion that you might have about testosterone in the future as you continue to educate yourself. In order to understand why testosterone tests don't give you the information that you need to understand the two types of testosterone. You have total testosterone and free testosterone. Now, total testosterone is testosterone, this blue triangle here, which is bound to a protein called SHBG. When testosterone is attached to SHBG, it cannot exert its effects in the body because it's blocked. Free testosterone, on the other hand, is just pure testosterone that is not blocked with SHBG. So we have blue triangle equals testosterone, blue triangle surrounded by Pac-Man equals SHBG. This testosterone can work. This testosterone is locked and it cannot work. Now, in your bloodstream, this red here, imagine this is your bloodstream. Most of your testosterone is actually attached to SHBG. And the reason for this is because SHBG is like a protector. It encapsulates testosterone and protects it from being broken down. Only free testosterone that's not attached by Pac-Man can get into the cells and exert its effects. So here's where the problem with testosterone tests comes in. Most of them only test your total testosterone level, which is testosterone attached to SHBG. So what does that tell you? That's telling you how much testosterone you have that is not able to exert effects in your body, which is okay for telling you your total amount of testosterone, but it tells you nothing about how well testosterone is actually doing its job. So you might wonder, okay, Josh, is there a way that you can test your free testosterone? And you can. The problem is, even free testosterone, getting that tested, doesn't tell you if testosterone is doing its job. And here's why. On each cell in your body, or not on each cell, but a lot of different tissues in your body, like your brain, your muscles, your penis, these have androgen receptors. These little Y guys here, these are androgen receptors. Androgen receptors are the sites where testosterone binds in the body. And you can think of this in an analogy as a lock and a key. Imagine that the androgen receptor is the lock, and free testosterone without SHBG is the key. So the reason why, even if you know how much free testosterone you have, why that doesn't tell you if testosterone is doing its job, is because every man has a different concentration, meaning a different number of androgen receptors on his cells. So if you happen to be a guy who has few androgen receptors on your cells, this is called low androgen receptor concentration, then your body is going to need a lot more free testosterone to increase the likelihood that it encounters one of these receptors. And then once free testosterone attaches to the receptor, it goes into the cell, tells DNA to do the things testosterone does. We'll keep it that simple. So here's why this can be misleading. If a man takes a testosterone test and it says that he has high total testosterone levels, he might have low free testosterone levels, but believe he has high testosterone. But let's say that another guy is wise enough to get both his total and his free testosterone tested, which takes a few more steps. And he sees that he has high free testosterone, so he thinks, oh, well, I'm off the hook, my testosterone levels are high. But let's say that this guy has a low number of androgen receptors, which is something that's mostly genetically determined. In that case, his body would need above average free testosterone to increase the likelihood that that free testosterone comes into contact with one of his few androgen receptors. I'll give you a little bit of a case study to help make this clear. One of my clients had low total testosterone, but his body compensated by increasing his free testosterone. So his body realized, okay, I don't have very much testosterone flowing around. He was obese, so he didn't have much testosterone. So his body responded by freeing up what little testosterone he did have to do its job. But without ever getting a test, because you can't really test your androgen receptor density, I knew that Chris, my client, still had low testosterone because he was obese and he was experiencing symptoms of low testosterone even though his free T was high. So that tells me he had a low density of androgen receptors, so his body needed above average free testosterone, because only when testosterone attaches to the androgen receptor is it able to do the things testosterone does, like build muscle and give you sex drive and confidence and all those other things. The key point you need to take away from this, even if none of that made sense, is that the amount of total and free testosterone in your bloodstream, which is what blood tests test, doesn't matter at all, because the only thing that matters at the end of the day is if testosterone is doing its job in your cells. So you might be wondering, how do you know that? How do you know if testosterone is exerting its effects? It's by your subjective experience. Are you able to build muscle? Do you feel libido? Do you have confidence in yourself? Are you living life to your fullest potential? Now, these might seem hard to measure. So then the question becomes, okay, Josh, how can I calculate if testosterone is exerting its subjective effects accurately? And lucky for you, there has been recent scientific developments and they've come up with a test called the qADAM questionnaire. It stands for the quantitative qADAM questionnaire. And it's just a series of questions that asks you essentially how you feel, and what you do is you add up how you feel on a scale of 1 to 5 for each of the questions, and then your total score is a reflection of your testosterone status, which is essentially how well testosterone is functioning in your body. Because every man's body is different. Every man is going to have a different total testosterone. Every man's going to have a different free testosterone. Every man's going to have a different androgen receptor density. So to know, the only way to know for certain if all of these are in harmony and in balance for you is if your subjective experience reflects that testosterone is doing its job, and that's where the qADAM questionnaire comes in. I'm going to leave a link to the qADAM questionnaire in the description so you can take it for yourself. And the cool thing is, if you remember earlier, I was telling you about how testosterone tests are problematic because you only take them in one acute moment in time, and they don't tell you what your long-term testosterone levels are. Well, you can take an qADAM test and fill out the questionnaire and calculate your score every couple days, every couple weeks. You can do it year-round. So you can track your qADAM score throughout the year and see how your subjective felt experience of testosterone fluctuates over time to get a much more accurate depiction of your long-term testosterone standing. So that's the beauty of the qADAM questionnaire. And it's the questionnaire that I use with all of my clients in the Testosterone Transformation Academy, which is a program where I coach men to help them optimize their testosterone levels naturally so they don't need to go anywhere near TRT. And if you're a guy struggling with low testosterone, it's the best program you're gonna find to optimize your testosterone naturally. We go over everything you need to know about training, nutrition, your mindset. We leave no stones unturned. So if that sounds like something that might be helpful for you, you can find that link in the description as well. If a guy takes a testosterone test and his blood levels say that his levels are high, he might go around thinking, oh, I have high testosterone. I can sneak in another snack that I don't need. I can go to bed later because I have high testosterone. And then over time, in his mind, he might start justifying doing things that he knows aren't good for his testosterone levels based on an arbitrary reading which might not even be accurate. To the contrary, there could be a man who has pretty healthy testosterone levels, but if his blood tests say he has low testosterone, even though testosterone is properly exerting its effects in his body, then the placebo effect, which is very powerful and real, might start kicking in, and he could think, oh, I have low testosterone, I don't know why, even though I'm doing all the right things. And he could think himself into having low testosterone just by the placebo effect. So this can be really dangerous, but at the core root of all of this, the worst part about testosterone tests is they shift your locus of control from internal to external. They cause you to focus on things that are outside of your control. The amount of testosterone that's in your bloodstream is not in your direct control. But you know what is in your direct control? The actions that you need to take on a day-to-day basis to optimize your testosterone levels naturally. And in the Testosterone Transformation Academy, we break this down into 5 pillars: training, nutrition, mindset, lifestyle, and purpose. Those are the 5 things that you should be doing consistently to optimize your testosterone levels naturally. So while you're too busy obsessing over whatever your testosterone measurement might be, or asking your doctor about your testosterone tests, you're not focused on the actions that are in your control. The other issue is that testosterone tests take your attention away from how you feel as a man internally, and they redirect your attention to arbitrary numbers. So if you are completely reliant on blood testosterone tests to gauge how healthy your testosterone levels are, then you never get in touch with your body. Every man should know what it feels like to have high testosterone. Not what some number says, but how it feels. And the only way to know how it feels is to consistently execute on the actions that lead to high testosterone to experience the benefits. This is why during my time overcoming low testosterone, I never bothered to get my testosterone levels measured, because I knew it didn't matter. It wouldn't change what I need to do to overcome low testosterone. So you're probably wondering, if you never got your blood levels checked, how do you know you had low testosterone? Because I was riddled with signs and symptoms: erectile dysfunction, depression, high blood pressure, a little bit of anxiety in there. So since I was symptomatic, I had a bunch of signs of low testosterone, and then I educated myself and followed through on actions that would reverse those symptoms. So I did things that I learned would increase my testosterone levels, and on the other side, I felt way better and looked way better. I was able to infer that in the past I had low testosterone. I did these things that I learned improved testosterone, and now I feel way better and I have high signs of high testosterone. So I did all of that without ever looking at a blood panel. I just did it based on my symptoms, my signs, and how I felt as a man. And in that process, I really got in touch with my body, and now I'm able to tell when I have high or low testosterone just based on how I feel. And this is a really important skill to have because, like I said earlier, there's a lot of factors that affect your testosterone levels, like stress, your training. Like there's dozens of factors in your life that affect your testosterone levels. So by being able to identify internally how things are affecting your testosterone, which, by the way, is a direct reflection of your overall health, you can essentially determine how healthy you are just based on how you feel. So coming full circle, my message to you is to stop worrying about arbitrary testosterone numbers. Start focusing on what's in your control, which is the actions you take on a day-to-day basis. And instead of using testosterone numbers to tell you where your testosterone levels are, learn to feel what it feels like to be high or low testosterone. Get in touch with yourself, and that is a skill that will be crucially important to take with you for the rest of your life. And if you're a bit nerdy and you really want to be able to quantify your subjective felt experience of high or low testosterone, the qualitative qADAM questionnaire is always there for you, so you can use that. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one.